Self-driving or autonomous vehicles are just around the corner. They may be able to drive from A to B thanks to satellite navigation and avoid obstacles like other cars. But pedestrians are less predictable. No longer do scientists first have to assume people are spherical to tackle this problem safely. Thanks to artificial intelligence, behaviour can be learned by the vehicle's brain. Well, joining me now is Maya Pindeus, CEO of Humanising Autonomy, which is developing decision-making technology for autonomous vehicles. This is a fascinating area. Completely alien to me, but we're talking here about something which is very new to a lot of people. First of all, what does HA do, your company, and what's your business model?
Well, we're creating a context-specific platform for human intent prediction. So, you know, self-driving vehicles, they have a lot of trouble of seeing and understanding human intent on the road, especially if we're looking at European cities, a dense, messy environment where things can change like in a split second, like human behavior is. This is why we're analyzing human behavior, pedestrian movement, pedestrian body language and activities in order to be able to predict, the car to be able to predict what this person does on the street. And this is a software, basically. This is a platform that will be integrated into an autonomous vehicle software stack, but also into semi-autonomous technologies such as advanced driver assistance and advanced safety measures on vehicles on the road today.
Yes, and what's your business model? How ultimately are you going to make money out of this?
We're working on a SaaS model. So basically we're going to be licensing on a per connected vehicle basis onto our customers who are either car manufacturers or tier one suppliers, software providers, who will be licensing our platform to. Yeah. To be integrated on a vehicle.
I think some of the more high-profile driverless vehicle systems come from the likes of Tesla, BMW we're hearing about. What makes HA stand out? What is your technology? What does it do that other companies in the area that compete with you don't do?
Well, first of all, we're focusing purely on a very complex but defined problem, which is human intent prediction, which is something that is unique in multiple ways. And one way is we're focusing on deep learning, it's a very much AI-focused platform, but also looking at human behaviors. That means that we're fusing deep learning models with psychological and behavioral models of how people actually behave on the street, fusing those two together to create a prediction. And also that we're focusing from the beginning on context and culture. People in different places behave very, very differently, such as London versus Vienna versus Shanghai, for instance. And it's very important for a vehicle to be able to adapt and understand those different locations.
So how do you go about programming this? Because I can understand a computer has to learn, but actually identifying who is who on a street. I mean, in London here, we have people that come from all around the world, and they do their own thing. So if you're based in London and you're expecting Londoners to behave in a certain way, importing cultures from other countries gives the computer the difficulty in learning very quickly as to what's going to happen with that sort of person walking across the road.
Absolutely. So this is where those behavioral models come in. So on one hand, we feed sensor data and we analyze large amounts of visual data to be able to predict what a person is likely to do. And then for the cultural context, or the contextual part, we understand or we look at how different people are likely to behave in different locations, in different contexts, whether it's day or night, central London or outskirts, or London or Munich, for instance. And fusing those two together is where you get a very accurate prediction.
Right. Explain a little bit more about some of the pilots you've been running and what's in the pipeline.
So we chose a model from quite early on where we want to collaborate with the automotive industry while building a product. So quite early in our company, we started a pilot with Daimler Mercedes-Benz. We've been working on full autonomous integration and systems. And we do pilots in different areas. So one thing is full autonomy, exploring use cases and scenarios of full autonomy vehicles. And the other thing is exploring the integration into current semi-autonomous technology. Because autonomous vehicles may be around the corner, but semi-autonomous technologies such driver assistance systems are integrated into most of the vehicles today. And we see a huge benefit of adding our technology to today's systems.
To what degree has Tesla been important in bringing this along? We hear a lot about Tesla's involvement with autonomous vehicles. Google, of course, has been very heavily involved with it and are paying a lot of money into this sort of new product area. We'll get on to funding for your particular business in just a minute, but to what degree is the whole environment being driven, if you excuse the pun, by Tesla and Google and other big players?
I think Tesla, particularly Tesla, has a great PR strategy, right? So whenever Tesla is doing something new, it's all over the news. And I think it's beneficial or telling for the industry in a way that they're venturing into, for example, camera technology. So Tesla claims that they're looking at solving their object detection and autopilot with cameras, for instance, whereas other companies and other industry partners would look at much more like different sensor fusions. So in the end, for us, it's quite interesting to look at Tesla's development because they're choosing, let's say, almost the most widely available of all sensors, which is a normal visual camera. And Google, for instance, it's very particularly interesting because they have most of the miles driven, right? But then it's quite interesting to see where they test, where autonomous vehicles such as Google's are tested, compared to where people actually behave, and it's important to understand people's behavior, which most likely is not always in remote areas such as Arizona or Silicon Valley, but more like dense cities, which makes it put us on the plane of going into automotive as well.
Going back to your USP, of course, this humanising aspect to the whole thing. What about funding? How are you funded? I spoke at the top about the business model, and it's obviously important to get a new business up and running, and obviously sometimes there's some considerable amount of time has to elapse before it starts even beginning to think about plans of way to make money. What about the seeding? What about the funding you're getting, and how long-term is that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we're engaging in a pilot project where there's one branch of our funding activities, so working with industry partners. But of course, we're working with angels and raising our seed round at the moment, actually. So yeah, we're quite in the middle of that. So we have a lead angel in place and aiming to gathering a syndicate at the moment.
And what's their background? Are they into the driverless vehicles, or are they in other areas that are interested in this technology to use it in other areas other than driving?
So we're looking at looking for investors that are strategic in certain ways, right? So one thing is industry specific. It's very helpful, of course, but also other areas such as robotics, of understanding the scope wider than the vehicle automotive scope, but understanding the application of human-machine interactions in multiple industries.
Whereabouts is your company based? Here in London?
Here in London, yeah.
How's the Brexit negotiations likely to affect, or the outcome potentially of what happens there? Some people are talking about a cliff edge potentially if there's no agreement between the UK and the EU. How could that upset your plan?
Well, as with everything, Brexit is very unpredictable what is likely to happen. Us three founders, two of us are EU citizens, so in a way we're working a lot with Germany and we're working a lot with the UK. So for us, it is really important to be a European business, involving the UK, of course. So the outcomes of Brexit are very unpredictable for us as well, but we really value London as a location to work throughout all of Europe.
Yeah. Okay. One final question. Rising interest rates.
Yeah.
Is that likely to have an impact on your business and funding?
Interest rates, not at this stage of a funding of a business, as we are also B2B business, so we don't work we don't deal directly with the consumer, but really with industry partners. So this is not necessarily an issue.
Good. Well, look, wish you all strength to your elbow, because it's obviously a very new business, and looking forward to hearing how things develop. But Maya, in the meantime, thanks indeed for joining us. That's Maya Pindeus, the Chief Executive of Humanising Autonomy. Subscribe to IG for educational content, company insight, financial analysis and expert commentary.